NBIA, Natural Bioscience Intelligence Agency. The science is real. The mission is yours.
Elgin, Illinois, 0347 hours. The load is 18 pallets, flavored instant oatmeal, single-serve fruit, yogurt cups, shelf-stable juice beverages, branded, colorful, distributed across 340 school districts by morning. I need the dye manifest.
Already pulled. Red 40 and yellow 5 inches. 9 of the 14 SKUs on that contract. Listed on the ingredient panel. Not listed on the procurement summary the district administrators actually read. 43 grams of dye-containing product per child serving. 3.2 million children before the first bell rings.
Same compound profile as the targeted yogurt lines in the Wisconsin districts. Different brand. Same co-packer.
Same operation. Different packaging. Those dyes aren't inert coloring agents. They're metabolized in the colon into aromatic amine derivatives that cross the intestinal wall and disrupt voltage-gated sodium channel firing in prefrontal cortical neurons. The brain is already working when the box looks appealing. Biochemistry does not adjust its mechanism because the label says natural flavors. And it's not only the oatmeal. Flavored instant breakfast drinks, gelatin-based snack cups, mass-market fruit chews. If it carries a color that doesn't exist in nature, the mechanism is the same. The children consuming this daily across 29 states are the study. They just don't know they're enrolled. The solution is also real and specific. You'll have it before this episode ends. 18 hours earlier, Geneva.
University of Iowa, McCord Research Center. What I'm looking at is 26 years of neurodevelopmental assessment scores from school-age cohorts in Iowa school districts. Attention metrics, working memory indices, impulse control scores, cross-referenced against school breakfast program participation rates and dietary intake records. Between 2010 and 2018, a subset of these districts transitioned to artificial dye-free breakfast menus, following state-level dietary guidance. The neurodevelopmental score trajectory for those cohorts diverges at the menu switch point. Measurably. This analysis has never been published as a standalone paper. The data has been here, archived, waiting for the question that would make it legible. Joining the briefing now. What I'm carrying changes the longitudinal picture entirely.
Target operation. A school breakfast food service contractor serving 1,900 school districts across 29 states. The contractor holds distribution rights and co-packing relationships for 14 branded SKUs reaching 4,100 schools and approximately 3.2 million children daily. The threat compounds are FD&C red number 40, Allura red AC, and FD&C yellow number 5, tartrazine. Frost, the mechanism.
Before I give you the molecular pathway, I want you to have a frame for it. Think of your prefrontal cortex as a precision circuit designed to fire in coordinated bursts, then reset cleanly between signals. The reset is controlled by proteins called voltage-gated sodium channels embedded in the neuron's membrane. When those channels reset properly, the circuit is quiet between firings. When the reset is disrupted, when the channels stay open too long, the circuit produces noise, spontaneous discharge. The brain interprets that noise as difficulty focusing, impulsivity. Reduced working memory. The child gets a behavioral label. The breakfast does not get examined. Here is the mechanism. Red 40 and yellow 5 are azo dyes synthetic compounds with a nitrogen double bond bridge. In the colon, bacterial azoreductase enzymes cleave that nitrogen bridge and release aromatic amine metabolites, specifically sulfonylic acid derivatives and 4-aminobenzene sulfonic acid compounds. These metabolites cross the intestinal epithelial barrier, enter systemic circulation, and cross the blood-brain barrier into prefrontal cortical tissue. Once inside prefrontal neurons, the aromatic amines interact with NaV1, 6 and NaV1, 7 voltage-gated sodium channel subtypes, the specific subtypes dense in the prefrontal cortex. The interaction reduces the channel inactivation rate. The channel does not close as efficiently. The neuron fires more readily, at a lower threshold, with higher spontaneous discharge frequency. In a developing brain where the prefrontal cortex is still actively myelinating between ages 6 and 12, this disruption is not a minor perturbation, it is interference in active construction.
When you say the prefrontal cortex is myelinating, does that mean the disruption during that window causes permanent changes, or is it reversible if the dye exposure stops?
The NAV channel disruption is biochemically reversible once the aromatic amine metabolite load decreases. What is harder to recover is the developmental trajectory. Myelination follows a use-dependent reinforcement model circuits that fire with fidelity during the active developmental window build more robust myelin sheaths. Circuits disrupted by noise during the same window complete myelination with lower signal fidelity. The window does not reopen. That is the compound consequence of chronic daily exposure.
The University of Iowa data makes that consequence visible at population scale. The cohorts in districts that maintained artificial dye-containing breakfast programs through the full 2010 to 2018 observation period show a persistent deficit in working memory and impulse control indices, compared to the dye-free transition cohorts, a deficit that does not normalize in the post-elementary follow-up data. The divergence holds across socioeconomic controls. Breakfast content was the distinguishing variable.
The formulator's position in this operation, Frost.
His company owns the food service distribution contract and the co-packing relationship supplying 9 of the 14 SKUs. He did not formulate these products. His intervention point was in 2020 at the Chicago Unified School District contract renewal. A district-level proposal would have required artificial dye disclosure on the procurement summary sheets that purchasing administrators actually review, not buried in the ingredient panel. The proposal would have created a disclosure precedent for the entire 2-9 state distribution network. His company was the sole vendor on the renewal contract. The proposal was voted down at the renewal meeting.
He didn't need to reformulate. He just needed the disclosure to fail. The product stays the same. The information disappears from the one place that would have changed procurement decisions.
Countermeasure, Frost.
Algal DHA docosahexaenoic acid from Schizochytrium species microalgae. DHA is the structural fatty acid comprising 40% of the phospholipid composition of neuronal membranes in the prefrontal cortex. It is incorporated into the SN2 position of membrane phospholipids continuously across the lifespan as membranes turn over. As DHA content increases in the bilayer, the conformational environment of the sodium channel proteins embedded in that membrane changes specifically, NAV channel inactivation rate increases, spontaneous discharge decreases, and signal-to-noise ratio in prefrontal circuits improves. DHA does not remove the aromatic amine metabolites. It resets the membrane environment in which those channels operate.
When you specify the SN2 position in the phospholipid bilayer, is that placement structural, or does the location in the membrane actually change how the NAV channel responds?
N3 confirm optimal membrane DHA threshold for NAV inactivation normalization in the 6 to 12 prefrontal window.
Membrane DHA content of 33 to 35 mol% phospholipid bilayer composition correlates with normalized NAV1, 6 and NAV1. 7 inactivation kinetics in prefrontal cortical tissue. Below 28 mol%, inactivation delay is measurable. Below 22, spontaneous discharge rate increases by a factor of 3.1. 600 milligrams daily supplementation achieves threshold correction within 14 to 21 days of consistent intake in depleted profiles.
That confirms the dosage floor. The position matters structurally and functionally. DHA at SN2 is the specific geometry that changes the lipid-protein interface the NAV channel sits in. A different fatty acid in that position does not produce the same conformational shift. Algal source is specified over fish oil for operational reasons. Closed photobioreactor cultivation eliminates ocean contamination risk. No PCBs, no heavy metals, no oxidation variability. Rancid fish oil delivers oxidized DHA with negligible neurological benefit and measurable inflammatory load. The therapeutic compound is only effective if it arrives at the membrane intact.
Field confirmation, Viper Go.
14 hours later, DSM Veramaris production facility, Blair, Nebraska. The Veramaris facility in Blair cultivates Schizochytrium in sealed fermentation tanks, no ocean exposure, no atmospheric contamination, no variable cold chain from catch point to processing. The batch DHA concentration certificates I'm reviewing show 750 milligrams of DHA per gram of algal oil, with oxidation testing documentation included. This is what pharmaceutical grade means in practice, not a claim on the label, a number on a certificate with an instrument behind it. Compare that to the retail fish oil category. The fish is caught. It begins oxidizing. The time between catch and processing determines what arrives at the capsule. Most capsule products are flavored to mask rancidity. The consumer has no instrument. They have a lemon flavor and a label claim. Frost confirmed the uptake pathway. I want the full molecular journey on record.
DHA consumed with a fat-containing meal is packaged into chylomicrons in intestinal enterocytes. Chylomicrons enter lymphatic vessels, bypassing first-pass hepatic metabolism, and deliver DHA into systemic circulation. From circulation, DHA is carried by LDL and albumin to target tissues. The blood-brain barrier shows preferential fatty acid transport selectivity for DHA over shorter-chain omega-3s. Neuronal tissue takes it first. Once across the blood-brain barrier, DHA enters the prefrontal cortex and is incorporated into the SN2 position of phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylethanolamine in neuronal membrane phospholipid bilayers. This is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process. Membranes turn over, and DHA is incorporated with each cycle. As DHA concentration in the bilayer increases, the conformational flexibility of the NAV channel proteins embedded in that bilayer changes measurably. The aromatic amine metabolites of red 40 and yellow 5 had been reducing NAV inactivation efficiency in that membrane. The DHA does not remove them. It changes the biophysical environment of the channel itself, increased membrane fluidity, altered lipid-protein interface geometry such that the channel's inactivation kinetics normalize. The signal-to-noise ratio improves. The spontaneous discharge rate decreases. The person who was told they had a focus problem had a membrane composition problem. The membrane is now receiving the substrate it was designed to run on.
Batch confirmed. 600 milligrams DHA per serving. Schizochytrium source. Oxidation documentation on file. Countermeasure verified.
The DHA is in circulation. Blood-brain barrier crossed. Prefrontal cortex reached. The phospholipid bilayer of a prefrontal neuron accepts the first DHA molecule into the SN2 phosphatidylserine position. The bilayer flexes a fractional change in membrane architecture that the NAV channel protein registers immediately through its lipid-facing transmembrane domains. The channel was firing too easily, too frequently, threshold lowered by aromatic amine interference. Now the membrane is shifting beneath it, DHA molecules accumulating at the bilayer level, altering the conformational bias of the channel protein's inactivation gate. The gate begins closing faster. Spontaneous discharge rate decreases. The prefrontal circuit quiets.
At the population scale, that quieting is measurable in attention indices, impulse control scores, and working memory performance. The same metrics the Iowa archive data showed diverging at the menu switch point. The membrane change is molecular. The consequence is longitudinal. The intervention is a single dietary addition.
The formulator's distribution load is moving, but the countermeasure moves faster. It's already in the membrane before the next serving is packaged.
We have an intercept. Encrypted transmission. Fragmentary.
Pipe it through. 40 steel.
Hepatic fructose clearance overwhelmed at 40 grams per serving. De novo lipogenesis confirmed. The triglyceride signal appears at week 6. The consumer interprets it as age-related metabolic change, scaling through the adult-flavored beverage category 0 fat, high appeal. The nutritional panel will show 0 grams of fat and 35 grams of sugar.
Signal lost. Transmission fragment logged. He's already moved to the next target category. Adult-flavored beverages. Fructose metabolism. De novo lipogenesis.
He's always 3 moves ahead, which means we move now. Frost begin preliminary analysis on the fructose lipogenesis pathway. Ghost, the hepatic long-term data. Viper, I need you in the adult beverage supply chain by 0600.
Moving.
The Iowa data goes to the disclosure advocacy contact in the Chicago district, anonymized, formatted as a policy brief. The neurodevelopmental trajectory analysis is the argument the district proposal didn't have in 2020.
He blocked a disclosure requirement. The data makes the next proposal harder to block. Field intelligence is authorized. Ghost, the hepatic fructose archive. Frost picks up the next operation at 0600, authorized.
Everything you're about to hear has been published in peer-reviewed research. I'm going to give you the mechanism, the study, and the exact dose in plain language. DHA docosahexaenoic acid is the primary structural fatty acid in the neuronal membranes of your prefrontal cortex. It is incorporated into the phospholipid bilayer continuously as membranes turn over, and its concentration in that bilayer directly determines how efficiently your voltage-gated sodium channels inactivate between firing events. More DHA in the membrane means cleaner channel kinetics, lower spontaneous discharge, better signal-to-noise ratio, improved executive function. The aromatic amine metabolites produced when your body processes red 40 and yellow 5 reduce that inactivation efficiency. DHA does not neutralize those metabolites. It restores the membrane environment in which your channels operate. The study. Richardson et al., 2012, PLOS 1, Volume 7, Issue 9. Randomized controlled trial, 362 children aged 7 to 12 with ADHD consistent profiles. DHA supplementation at 600 milligrams daily for 16 weeks produced significant improvements in attention, impulsivity measures, and literacy scores versus placebo. Effects were most pronounced in children with low baseline DHA status, which is the majority of children consuming a standard Western diet. Supporting mechanistic evidence, McCann et al., 2007, The Lancet, Volume 370, Issue 9598, a double-blind crossover design confirming that a combination of food dyes, including red 40 and yellow 5, significantly increased hyperactivity scores in children aged 3 and 8 to 9 versus placebo. The UK banned 6 food dyes following this study. The FDA issued an advisory. The dyes remain in the United States food supply. The dose: 600 milligrams of DHA daily from a verified algal source specifying Schizochytrium species and DHA concentration per serving on the certificate of analysis, not milligrams of fish oil, not milligrams of omega-3, milligrams of DHA, confirmed. Here is the detail the industry does not want you to evaluate. DHA content varies dramatically between fish oil products, and oxidation of the fatty acid eliminates therapeutic benefit entirely. Most capsule products are flavored to mask rancidity. Rancidity is detectable by smell in an unflavored product, but the flavoring comes first. Algal DHA from a closed photobioreactor source with oxidation testing documentation is the only verifiable standard. The membrane receives what you actually deliver to it. NBIA, Truth and Transparency in Human Health.